Good afternoon, everybody. Where I really want to sit is at the drum set, but okay. It's not mine. I don't want to play with it. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Salk Institute. I think for most of you, I see a lot of familiar faces, hardly the first time at the Salk Institute. I'm Jerry Joyce. I'm the president of the Salk Institute. On behalf of all of us, want to welcome you to the latest of the Joan Jacobs Science and Music series, a regular and very special thing that we have here at Salk, excuse me. This series, I think, really captures a couple of the stylistic things about Salk. So, it brings together discovery, discovery in music, discovery at the bench, and the human spirit, the spirit behind discovery, the spirit behind musicality. And so that's kind of the theme here, as in many things at Salk, how science and art, different kinds of arts, architecture and music come together. I just want to talk just a bit about what is really current here at Salk right now. As I think you all know, especially if you've interacted with the Salk over the years, we are a world-class nonprofit biological research institute. We're very active in the areas of cancer research and metabolic diseases and plant biology. This year and last year, but especially this year, we've been focusing thematically on brain health, on cognitive brain health. It's something we all have dealt with, hopefully not ourselves, hopefully not in our close friends and family, but inevitably, just given the statistics, it's something we've all dealt with, is the risk, and sometimes the reality of cognitive loss of cognitive brain health. Because we live a long time. Fortunately we get to live many, many decades, but our brains weren't originally evolved to live as long as we live, and so it becomes a challenge in later life to maintain cognitive brain health. And that's what we're very much focusing on this year, is all of the elements that can contribute to us staying healthy up here. And I guess a bottom line message that you're going to be hearing and have been hearing throughout this year, and you'll hear a bit tonight, is how brain health isn't just about the brain. It's about all the systems of the body and how they support brain health, right? How cardiovascular health supports brain health, metabolic health, good exercise, good sleep cycle, all these things that are out in the body are helping to maintain our cognitive brain health. And at Salk, we want to understand why those things help, what specific mechanisms are behind those, and then how can we take advantage of those mechanisms to optimize them. So one part of that interconnected story between brain and body is immune health, and that's what we're going to hear about tonight, because the immune system is not something that's just out there fighting against infection. The immune system is talking to the brain. The brain talks to the immune system talks to the brain. It's an important part, the immune system, of how our brain develops, how it's maintained over a lifetime, and how it's nurtured so that we retain cognitive brain health through a long life. So tonight's talk, which is from my distinguished colleague, Shika Ramanan, an assistant professor here at Salk, is about the relationship between immune health, in particular, and she'll, of course, tell you more about this, the connection between the mother and the newborn, and how immune health starts even before birth, at birth, and then builds from the start, healthy cognitive function and healthy function overall. And she will, I think, weave together themes of the diet of the mother, the environment, the microbiome, and how that all contributes to the immune development of the child. So Shika's only been here for 3 years, and she's already recognized around the world for being a star. I know she's already blushing here, but I'm just going to brag about Shika. First of all, this area of research she's going to talk about is one that is fairly new and not well studied, but at the forefront of it is our own Shika Ramanan. She's already received many honors: Rita Allen Foundation Scholar, the V Scholar Award from the V Foundation, Damon Runyon Breakthrough Scientist Award, and one of my favorites, the Stat Wunderkind Award. So, Distinguished Scholar, Breakthrough, Wunderkind. So, this afternoon, I give you our own Shika Ramanan, please.
Thank you, Jerry, for that really kind introduction. I am blushing. It is truly an honor to be given the opportunity to present our work today at the Joan Jacobs Science and Music series. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you all for being here. Today, I'm going to tell you about a foundational question we are asking in my lab, which is, how do mothers promote immunity in their offspring? Now, the survival of most species depends on parents passing on immunity to their young, helping them defend against diseases and helping them thrive in their given environment. But our world is rapidly changing, and we continue to have babies before we can adapt to the changes in our environment. So my question to you is, in an environment where the only constant is change, how do parents ensure optimal immune health in their offspring and even subsequent generations? Now, parents provide early life protection in several ways, which I like to think of as the building blocks of immunity. We inherit genetics from our parents that protect us from certain infections and diseases. But genetics don't change as fast as our environments do. So to reflect the more immediate changes in our environment, mothers provide protection by transferring microbes that help defend against pathogens and educate our immune system. And in mammals, mothers also provide milk with protective factors such as antibodies that help shape immunity. Now, when these blocks are stable, it seems to result in offspring with a balanced immune system. But sometimes these blocks are unstable, which leads to an imbalance in the immune system, resulting in increased risk of allergies, autoimmunity, and intestinal disease, which is what my lab focuses on. But as Jerry mentioned, this is the year of Salk's brain health. And what I want to tell you is we have more and more studies showing that this immune imbalance can also lead to neuroinflammation, not just in early life, but also well into adulthood, and is what I think is the cause to several brain diseases. So the question we are asking in my lab is quite simple. What actually causes the imbalances in these building blocks, and how can we restore them? But in order to understand these imbalances, we need to understand these blocks. And as Jerry mentioned, this is a pretty new area of science. You would think it is quite fundamental that mothers provide protection to their babies. So we should know everything there is to know about that. But we actually don't. So today I'm going to tell you two stories. First, I'm going to tell you about how we have been studying how maternal immunity can actually impact the process of making milk or lactation. And second, I'm going to tell you about how microbes in early life can actually impact offspring health, not just in early life, but well into adulthood. So the process of making milk or lactation requires the mammary gland to undergo a major transformation. Before pregnancy, the mammary gland is actually mostly fat. But during pregnancy, there is an increase in the structures that you see here in purple, which are the milk-producing structures, which are made up of milk-producing cells. Now, during lactation, I hope you can appreciate that you have majorly these structures that are milk-producing, and you don't see as much fat anymore. And when I had my first child, as an immunologist, I was actually shocked to find out that we have no idea how our immune system actually impacts this process of making milk. So I set out to find this, and I got to start my lab to study this question. And I do want to give a shout out to Jerry and the Salk, because when I was interviewing for a job and I said that I wanted to study maternal child health, most people thought that it was not that important. They appreciated the idea of it. Yes, it's important. But I got told many times that you're not going to, get funding to study this. And I'm happy to say that Salk took the chance on me, and like he said, I have now received several awards that are helping me answer these questions. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Jerry and the Salk. And so when I started my lab here at Salk 3 years ago, I got the opportunity to work with a very talented graduate student in my lab, Abby Jaquish, who's here in the audience. And what she decided to ask is, how do immune cells change during this process of pregnancy and lactation in the mammary gland? And what she found was actually quite striking. She found that the rapid remodeling of the mammary gland in pregnancy and lactation is actually accompanied by a rapid increase in immune cells. And what I'm showing you here is the total number of immune cells in the mammary gland during the different stages. And compared to before pregnancy, during lactation, you have a 50 to 100-fold increase in the number of immune cells that are in your mammary gland, which we thought was quite a striking finding. So we then wanted to ask, well, what are the immune cells that are changing in the mammary gland? And we decided to do this technique called single-cell sequencing. Now, I won't explain what the technique is, but what I want you to appreciate here is this population that I'm showing you here in red, which is circled in, which is in the black circle. Now, each individual dot in the circle is an individual cell. And I hope you can appreciate that before pregnancy, there's very few of these red cells. But during pregnancy and lactation, we have an increase in this population. And when we looked to see what this population was, it was a type of immune cell called T cells, which are a very important type of immune cell that help us defend against microbes. And what was also quite interesting is this specific population of T cells that we found in the mammary gland are usually found in the intestine and not in other organs. So we then wanted to ask, well, where are these cells in the mammary gland? So we then imaged the mammary gland. What I'm showing you here is a single structure, a milk-producing structure with the milk-producing cells in red and purple. And the cells in yellow and blue are the T cells. And what we found is that this increase in T cells that we were finding in the mammary gland, these cells were lodged in between the milk-producing cells, suggesting that they are actually helping promote this process of making milk. And Abby then went on to show that these T cells that were in the mammary gland actually physically migrated from the intestine to the mammary gland during pregnancy and lactation, suggesting that the intestinal health of the mom was actually impacting the mammary gland health of her during pregnancy and lactation. And we then partnered with the Human Milk Institute, who, lucky for us, are right across the street and have endless supply of human milk. And we were lucky enough to receive several samples of human milk. And what we found is that every single woman we looked at had T cells in their milk. And some women had tens of cells, some women had hundreds, some women have thousands. And while we still don't know why different women have different levels of T cells in the milk, this is something we're interested in looking at. This means that we can look at the milk of the mom to then predict what their mammary gland health is and potentially also predict what the health of their baby is going to be. And this is still a work in progress, but we're very excited about this. So one of the things then we wanted to ask is, what are these T cells doing during lactation? Clearly, women have plenty of these T cells. There's plenty of these T cells in the milk. But what is their function? And the mammary gland, if you think about it, before pregnancy is a closed-off organ. But during pregnancy and lactation, in order to produce milk and to secrete milk, it now becomes open to the outside environment. So the microbes that are on the skin of the mothers and the microbes that are in the mouth of the babies can now enter this gland. So we asked the question, well, are they there to promote defense against microbes? So what Abby did is she looked at the mammary gland in the presence of microbes and without microbes. And when we looked at what the mammary gland looked like, it was quite striking. I hope you can appreciate that in the presence of microbes in the mammary gland, these purple structures look quite crowded. We have several of these structures, and they're quite a bit smaller than what we find when there are no microbes in the mammary gland. We find that these structures look abnormal. This is not what a normal mammary gland looks like. These milk-producing structures are quite a lot bigger than when there are microbes in the mammary gland, suggesting that in order for mammary gland to develop normally, these microbes and these T cells are playing a role, because when Abby looked to see what happens to the immune cells when there are no microbes, she found there are a lot fewer immune cells compared to when there are microbes. So then Abby did this really smart experiment. She then introduced microbes into the system where we don't have microbes to see what happens to the immune cells. And voila, what happened is we now have this increase in immune cells and T cells, and the mammary gland actually goes back to what a normal mammary gland looks like. So what we found actually is that during pregnancy, T cells from the intestine of the mother actually migrate to the mammary gland and impacts milk production. So they migrate from the intestine to the mammary gland, and they expand during lactation in a manner dependent on microbes. And studies since then have shown that T cells can also impact milk production. So in the absence of T cells, the offspring are actually a lot smaller than when there are T cells present in milk, suggesting that T cells are not just impacting the immunity of the offspring, but they're also impacting the nutrition and growth of the offspring. And we're very excited to be at the forefront of this research to have made this discovery here at the Salk. So I hope I've convinced you that maternal immunity can, in fact, impact lactation, especially gut health, actually translate to mammary gland health in the mothers. Now I want to tell you about this other story we've been working on, which is how do microbes in early life impact offspring health? Now I told you the 2 blocks, right? And microbes is one of the most important blocks for long-term health. And the reason for that is because we have more microbes on our body than human cells. If any of you in the audience are germaphobes, I am sorry to break this to you, but only 43% of the cells in our body are actually human. The other 57% of cells in our body are actually bacteria. Now, before you worry, these are beneficial bacteria that we need. They help protect us from pathogens, they educate our immune system, and they even help us digest our food. A lot of the food we eat, especially plant-derived foods, or even the meat we eat, we cannot digest them without the presence of these beneficial bacteria. So this collection of microbes that live on and in us collectively is known as our microbiota. And I told you in the beginning of my talk that mothers provide us with our microbiota when we are born. And then via breastfeeding, we continue to develop our microbiota. And then the rest of our microbiota we get from our diet and our environment. What we now know is that the first 1,000 days in a child's life is the most crucial period for establishing their microbiota, which then sets the stage for immune education and then the microbiota that we have for the rest of our life, having an impact on the immunity, metabolism, and even cognitive health that Jerry talked about earlier. For the most part, babies that are born to healthy pregnancies and go on to receive breast milk have a balanced microbiota. But for some women, life throws a curveball, and they develop complications which requires treatment that can disrupt microbiota in their offspring. And unfortunately for me, I happen to be one of these women. So 2 days after I gave birth to my second child, I developed postpartum sepsis with an antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And in the 2 weeks that followed, I almost died, not once. I didn't die. I almost died, not once, but twice. And in all of the chaos that was happening, the doctors were trying different cocktails of antibiotics because I wasn't responding to a lot of them. And I asked my doctor, all of these different cocktails that you are experimenting on me right now, what is this going to do to my son and his microbiota? And my doctor said, you should not be worrying about that right now. Your life is more important. We are trying to save your life. Your son is going to be just fine. And they were right. My life was more important, but I'm a scientist, right? I couldn't help but the 2 weeks, and the unfortunate thing here too was I was already discharged from the hospital, so I couldn't keep my son with me anymore because he was now a visitor. So I spent a lot of nights alone in my hospital bed without my son, and I couldn't help but wonder what these antibiotics were doing to his microbiome and his long-term health. I mean, I was studying this, I was working on this for a living, right? I could not help but worry about this. So I told myself one of the nights that if I made it out alive, that I was going to study this in my lab. And I made it out alive, and when I looked into the statistics of antibiotics in children, I was actually quite shocked. Turns out that 45% of newborns receive antibiotics in the first few years of their life for different reasons, either because their mothers have an infection or they have an infection, and even routine procedures such as C-section, mothers are routinely given antibiotics. But we still don't fully understand how this heavy antibiotic use impacts their growth and development. So in my lab, we developed a model where we could study the impact of early life antibiotics on disease susceptibility later in life. We chose to study intestinal disease because that's our expertise, and we used a chemical called DSS, which mimics Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, which are becoming increasingly common these days. Now, this work was done by two talented scientists in my lab, Ivy and Danish, and what they found is that maternal antibiotics led to increased intestinal disease in the offspring. What I'm showing you here is just one readout of disease that we have in our lab, which is weight loss, which is a very good indicator of disease severity. And what we found is that early life exposure to antibiotics did lead to severe disease later in life when we exposed them to intestinal inflammation. And why? Because there is an imbalance in the microbial populations when they receive antibiotics. So the question we then asked in my lab is, can we restore microbial balance in early life and improve disease outcome? Now, for those of you that are taking probiotics here, I have news for you. Taking beneficial bacteria alone does not work, okay? What you actually need, in addition to the bacteria, is the food that the bacteria survive on, which are the prebiotics. And mothers do something that is fascinating. They give babies the microbes they want to be colonized with, and so that those bacteria can grow, they then custom make prebiotics for their babies and give it to them in their milk, which is why breastfeeding is so important. And so we then asked, what if we made a cocktail which we commonly call a symbiotic, where we take a bacteria from a healthy baby and then we combine it with the prebiotic in breast milk that will help support the growth of that bacteria. And then we give it to babies that are exposed to antibiotics in early life and look at the impact of this. And luckily for me, there is a company called Novonesis that we are partnering with that make these prebiotics that we can then test in our lab. And what we found, actually, we tested several different combinations of symbiotics, and we found one combination that hit it out of the park. And to remind you, a symbiotic is where we take a healthy infant bacteria and combine it with a prebiotic in breast milk. And what I'm showing you here, again, is an indicator of disease, which is weight loss. And this is when you have early life exposure to antibiotics, you lose a lot of weight, but you also develop severe disease. But now, when you received these symbiotics post-antibiotic exposure, you were protected from intestinal disease. And we also tested another combination, which didn't do as well as this symbiotic, but still did quite, as good as the control, suggesting that if we can provide these symbiotics in early life to children that did receive antibiotics for whatever reason, we could potentially promote a healthy microbiota and healthier immune education. So I hope I've convinced you in the two stories that I've shown you is that maternal immunity does impact lactation, and modulating microbes in early life can improve offspring health. And the ultimate goal of my lab is to understand mechanisms of maternal immunity during lactation, which will directly impact offspring immunity, potentially for generations to come. And by studying the building blocks of genetics, microbes, and milk, we plan to uncover critical insights that could transform our approaches to improving maternal and offspring health. For example, we can improve breastfeeding health in mothers, and as an alternative, improve infant formula, which could result in increased intestinal health, as I showed you before. But I also want to point out that this is the kind of work that we do here at Salk. Right? We do the foundational work that basically leads to cures later on. In the case of my son, he just turned 3, so he just passed a crucial window of opportunity where we can help give him a symbiotic that can help his intestinal health. But my hope here is that 5 or even 10 years from now, a mother that has to receive antibiotics for whatever reason will not have to worry about this. We have enough worries as it is as parents. And, as I said, we're really focusing here on intestinal health, but as Jerry mentioned before, intestinal health doesn't just stop at the intestine. It pretty much means a healthy body, and it definitely translates to a healthy brain, which is what we are working on here at the Salk. And I'm also proud to say that we have this neuroimmunology initiative where We are really studying brain health from every angle possible. With that, I would like to thank my lab members who really do all of this work, and I'm just their spokesperson here. Abby here, who did the mammary gland work, actually has a table outside where she can show you some fun microscopy, so that should be fun. Danish and Ivy, who did the intestinal disease work, and all of my collaborators at UCSD, Harvard Medical School, all of my funding sources, and finally, I also want to thank my 2 kids, who have no idea what I do because I'm just mom. But I hope that one day they will grow up and learn how much they have inspired me and the science that we do in my lab. And thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Shika. That was dramatic, a dramatic science, dramatic personal story. I knew some of that, but not all of that. So, Mother's Day is what, a couple weeks away? I know there's a lot of mothers in the audience. We are so grateful to you for giving us life, for giving us your microbiome, for giving us your prebiotics, and for giving us lifelong health. To moms everywhere, especially here. All right, so that was science. Now on to music. And we just love this combination of science and music. Now, not to overplay the metaphor, but there's a kind of rhythm to research in the labs, right? And there's a kind of melody of the discovery. And it really comes from that mix of creativity and diligence that is true both of scientists and of musicians. So today we are very fortunate to have as our musical guest acclaimed jazz pianist and vocalist Champian Fulton. I have not met her before. I've been listening to her, through online things, but looking forward to live performance. She was called by the Detroit Free Press the most gifted pure jazz singer of her generation. She's been performing for a couple decades now. She's released 19 albums as a band leader. She's performed in more than 25 countries around the world. She was multiple times recipient of Album of the Year from New York City Jazz Record. She was named by Hot House Jazz Magazine Pianist and Vocalist of the Year. And she regularly is in residence at the famous Birdland Jazz Club on 44th Street in New York. But we get to hear her right here on the stage with her vibrant and expressive vocals and piano. So we are delighted here at the Salk Institute today to welcome Champian Fulton.
The one I love belongs to somebody else. He sings his songs for somebody else, even when he has his arms around me. I know his thoughts are strong for somebody else. The hands I hold belong to somebody else. I bet they're not so cold for somebody else. Well, it's tough to be alone on a shelf. Worse, to fall in love by yourself when the one you love belongs to somebody else. The one I love belongs to somebody else. He sings his songs for somebody else, even when he has his arms around me. I know his thoughts are strong for somebody else. The hands I hold belong to somebody else. I bet they're not so cold for somebody else. Well, it's tough to be alone on a shelf. Worse, to fall in love by yourself when the one you love belongs to somebody else. Somebody else. He sings his songs for somebody else, even when he has his arms around me. I know his thoughts are strong for somebody else. The hands I hold belong to somebody else. I bet they're not so cold for somebody else. Well, it's tough to be alone on a shelf. Worse to fall in love by yourself when the one you love, when the one you love, when the one you love belongs to somebody else. Thank you very much. So nice to see you this afternoon. How are you? Yes? I was backstage and I was thinking, I don't think I've ever performed at such a prestigious event before. It's true. And I was trying to think of, what am I going to say? They just had this brilliant science lecture and now some music. But I liked what you said about the melodies and the rhythm to the research and everything, so thank you. I cried for you. Now it's your turn to cry over me. Every road has a turning. That's one thing you're learning. I cried for you. What a fool I used to be. Now I found two eyes a little bit bluer. Found a heart a little bit truer. I cried for you. Now it's your turn to cry. Your turn to cry. Your turn to cry over me. It's your turn to cry over me. Every road has a turning. That's one thing you're learning. I cried for you. What a fool I used to be. Now I found two eyes a little bit bluer, found a heart a little bit truer. I cried for you, now it's your turn to cry over me. Now it's your turn to cry over me. Every road has a turning. That's one thing you're learning. I cried for you, what a fool I used to be. Now I found two eyes a little bit blue, found a heart a little bit truer. I cried for you, now it's your turn to cry. Your turn to cry, your turn to cry over me. Thank you very much. That is Mike Garola on the bass. Charles Ruggiero on the drums. Thank you so much. I promise I will talk a little bit more. But I've been at home. I'm from Oklahoma, and I've been at home for a couple weeks. It's my first concert back in a while, and they sound so good. I just want to play, but I'll talk a little bit in a minute. But right now, we're going to play a beautiful waltz that I like a lot. It's a great song, but it's also about jewelry, and I think that's fun. This is called Baubles, Bangles, and Beads. Baubles, bangles, hear how they jing, jing-a-lingo, baubles, bangles. Bright, shiny beads, sparkles, spangles, my heart will sing, sing-a-lingo. Wearing bangles and beads, I just glitter and gleam so. Make somebody dream so that he may buy me a ring. I've heard that's where it leads. Wearing baubles, bangles, hear how they jing, jing-a-lingo, baubles, bright, shiny beads, sparkles, spangles. My heart will sing, sing-a-lingo. Wearing bangles and beads, I just glitter and gleam so. Make somebody dream so that he may buy me a ring. I've heard that's where it leads. Wearing baubles, bangles, and beads. Baubles, bangles, hear how they jing, jing-a-lingle. Baubles, bangles, and beads, sparkles, spangles, my heart will sing, sing-a-lingle. Wearing bangles and beads, I just glitter and gleam so. Make somebody dream so that he may buy me a ring. I've heard that's where it leads. Wearing baubles, bangles, sparkles, spangles, loads and loads of baubles and bangles, sparkles, spangles, loads of baubles, bangles and beads. Baubles, bangles, baubles, bangles, and beads. Baubles, bangles, and beads.
Thank you very much. So, my bio, I think it says I released 19 albums. But since that bio was written, I've released 2 more. So there's 21. But I'm going to tell you about our most recent ones and play a pretty ballad for you from this record. I made a duo record a few years ago, and I will tell you this because I've never said it on stage with my fiancé, but at the time we were not engaged. It's a duo album, and I was looking for songs where the singer is happy, because I sing a lot of really sad songs, and I thought I'm gonna change my life because I'm gonna sing happy lyrics. I think there's something to that, but I found this song. It's called "P.S. I Love You," and when I sing it, you might think that I'm not entirely happy. It's more of a wistful mood, but this is a beautiful song. It's from my album "At Home." This is called P.S. I Love You. What is there to say? What is there to write? Same things happen every day. Nothing left to say. Nothing left to write. So I'll take my pen in hand. Start the same old way. Dear, I thought I'd drop a line. The weather's cool. The folks are fine. I'm in bed each night at 9. P.S. I love you. Yesterday we had some rain, but all in all, I can't complain. Was it dusty on the train? P.S. I love you. Right to the Browns as soon as you're able. They came around to call. I burned a hole in the dining room table. Let
guess that's all. Nothing left for me to say, and so I'll close. But by the way, everybody's thinking of you. P.S. I love you. I do my best to obey all your wishes. I put a sign up, think. I'll have to buy us a new set of dishes or wash the ones that are piled in the sink. Nothing left for me to say, and so I'll close. But by the way, every night I'm dreaming of you. P.S. I love you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I started playing piano and singing when I was really very little. My father played trumpet and flugelhorn in Oklahoma, and I grew up around all his friends. He had really good friends like Clark Terry. Any jazz fans in here? Yes, some Clark Terry fans. I like that. Joe Williams. And they were always having so much fun. And when I went to kindergarten, you draw a picture of what you want to do when you grow up, and I drew myself on stage. And because I was like, I want to do that. They're so happy, and they stay in hotels all the time. It's so exciting. And my mother was like, but you're really good in school. You like lots of other things, which is true. But I was hooked. And my dad and I started working when I was 12 years old. This is why I have so many records. You can see I started very young. I moved to New York when I was 17 to pursue being a jazz musician. And I want to play one of the songs now that I started out my career singing. Clark taught me this song when I was a little girl. It's a good song for a little girl, and it's still a good song for me. And I'm going to feature Mike on this. I know we've done this before, but this is Pennies from Heaven. Yeah. In F. Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Be sure that your umbrella is upside down. Trade them for a package of sunshine and flowers if you want the things that you love. You must have showers, so when you hear it thunder, don't run up under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Every time it rains, it rains. Pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Be sure your umbrella is upside down. Trade them for a package of sunshine and flowers if you want the things that you love. You must have showers, so when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Be sure your umbrella is upside down. Trade them for a package of sunshine and flowers if you want the things that you love. You must have showers, so when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. There'll be pennies from heaven. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Mike Garola on the bass. Thank you. So you might be wondering how my father talked his little girl into being a jazz musician from such an early age. And I'll tell you that when I was, before I was born, when I was in utero, when I was in my mother, they decided to play what they considered to be the most beautiful music in the world for me exclusively, only one record. And they picked this. Yeah, you guys are interested in this. That's true. They picked Charlie Parker's Bird with Strings. My father thought that was, yes, we can clap for Charlie Parker. That's good. Thank you. And my father put it on a cassette, and they played this on repeat for me. And then they went into the hospital for me to be born, and they took a little tape player, and they told the doctor, when it's time, you have to hit play. And this is a true story. My mother worked at that hospital. She said it was a little bit embarrassing, but they did it. And so that was what I heard. And then after I was born, my father started introducing other music. And I had Count Basie tapes, and I had Dinah Washington tapes, Red Garland, Miles Davis. I liked Count Basie, he said, the most. And he said he would experiment. He would play something and see if I would smile or if I would cry. So that's the only music I heard when I was, before I went to school. And then I went to kindergarten, and my friends were listening to Madonna. It was a shock. And I was bringing my cassettes in, and you've got to hear this Duke Ellington suite, And but it's true. You've known me a long time. Charles knows this is true. And so a few years ago, in 2020, which was Charlie Parker's centennial, my father and I decided to make an album tributing Charlie Parker and tributing specifically Bird with Strings. And so we'd like to play one of our songs from that right now. This happens to be your favorite of the things that we do. Yeah. Your ringtone? Oh, it is, yeah. Not my version, though, but Charlie Parker's version. That's okay. That's better. This is Just Friends. Just friends, lovers no more. Just friends, but not like before. To think of what love has been, and not to kiss again seems like pretending. It isn't the ending to drifting apart, two friends and one broken heart. We loved, we laughed, we cried. And suddenly love died. The story ends as we're just friends. Just friends, lovers no more. Just friends, but not like before. To think of what love has been, and not to kiss again seems like pretending. It isn't the ending to drifting apart. Two friends and one broken heart. We loved, we laughed, we cried, and suddenly love died. The story ends as we're just Thank you. Thank you so much. So for my latest album, so I released one record in March and one record in April. So I don't know which one is number 20 and which one is number 21. But for my 20th album, I wanted to do a live party and have all my friends and a lot of my professional associates come, and I wanted to have a big, champagne and big catering and a band, like my band, and musicians sitting in, and I wanted it to be very much like the Dinah Washington album called Dinah Jams. And I pitched this idea to my record label, and they said, sure. And I don't think they were really thinking about that when musicians get together and party, that some of the songs then are like 11, 12 minutes long, which is not very Spotify friendly. And so that's what we did, and we've released this album, and it's really, I'm so happy with it. On the vinyl, there's 4 songs, because one side of vinyl is 21 minutes long, so that's 2 songs, and I think, but there's a CD version as well, and that's called House Party, and we'd like to play a tune from that for you right now, written by Wayne Shorter. I'm a really big Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers fan, and I wanted to do this song, but you cannot really replicate Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. They had 3 horns, Freddie Hubbard and Curtis Fuller and Wayne in front. And I thought we must change it to sort of make it fit our format. So this is our version of Wayne Shorter's One by One. Thank you very much. Charles Ruggiero on the drums.
Easy to love. Yeah, it's not in there.
You guys have a front row seat so you can see what's happening. I don't like to make a plan. So I sort of like to go by feel and sort of, just how things feel. And so Mike is always sort of subjected to that. And we're going to play something a little bit bright, just for fun. Before we play, we're going to play 2 more songs. We're going to play something bright right now. This is written by Cole Porter. And this is called Easy to Love. Garola on the bass. Charles Ruggiero on the drums. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Evening, every night you come and you find me, must you always remind me that my man has gone? Hurry, evening, can't you see I'm deep in your power? Every minute seems like an hour since my man has gone. Shadows fall on the wall, that's the time I miss your kisses most of all. Even though I try, how can I go on? Take me, evening, let me sleep till dawn is breaking. I don't care if I don't awaken, since my man has gone. So much for being here with us this afternoon. It has been such a pleasure. Such a nice way to come back from some time at home. Thank you. I did bring with me a few CDs and actually even LPs if you would like to take home a souvenir. And if you're wondering what is a CD, that's okay. I can sign it and then you can go and stream it. That's all right. But we hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your weekend. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Take me, evening. Let me sleep till dawn is breaking. I don't care if I don't awaken, since my man is gone. Since my man has gone.